So it was an awful, yet the greatest audition ever. Because he literally basically gave a middle finger to everybody and still got the job.
How old were you when you started?
18. I didn't move back to L.A. until I was 18 years old.
Did you always act?
No. When I was a kid, my mom was like, absolutely not. That's just not going to be your life. That was my dad's life, and it didn't end well, and so she didn't want me to have anything to do with it. It just ended up being such a special experience and got me excited to go back to work. And then my friend is the one that's directing the new I Know What You Did, and so it was just good timing that she was like, hey, would you wanna come back? And I said no. And she said, well, let me tell you the idea.
You do a podcast.
I do a podcast
horror,
about
right?
horror movies. Yeah, that's
so
all
amazing.
we talk about is every horror movie ever made.
What's it called?
It's called That Was Pretty Scary. It took a while. It took, over a decade for me to kind of see how the business was going and find a way to appreciate where the business was going. And then eventually I took a job with what all the studios thought was the enemy, was Netflix. I've found a way to exist in both worlds. As long as I can get a little taste of what I need, then I can do everything else.
I get that.
So you guys have been married now for 20 years?
22 years.
22
Wow.
years.
That's
something,
amazing.
That's exceptional.
something that I've admired about your relationship is you both have seemed to stay out of the public. So, Freddie, you said something a little bit ago that you retired.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing a little bit about this. Why did you make the decision to retire?
Oldish. The show where age-old questions meet new-age answers. With your hosts, Randy Spelling, Brian Austin Green, and Sharna Burgess.
Freddie Prinze Jr. Dude, you're in. Welcome to Oldish. I have a whole, you have such a crazy list of credits. I could get into those, or I can just shut the fuck up because I have a feeling that most people
Already know
who you are and already
nice
know
of you to
what
say.
you've done. So Freddie and I, we had worked in the business for a long time and we'd never met each other. And I went in and auditioned for this guy named Bruce Helford. And he was doing a show at the time with Johnny Galecki and nothing ever happened with it. But Bruce and I really kind of got along. He had a good set. I don't know why. He believed in something that I was doing. So then I get a call for Freddie's show. And it was auditioning and it was ABC.
Did you have to audition? I thought we just met and talked.
Bro, are you crazy? You cracked my back when I was doing testing. Remember?
But you didn't have to audition.
I
You
did
just
have to
tested.
audition.
You tested.
No,
That's
I
different.
auditioned and then I tested.
Wait, what show is
you
this?
shouldn't have had to.
Freddie. It was called.
It was
Freddie.
a little sitcom
Oh.
that I did for 1 year.
So I went in and auditioned and tested, and that was the first time that Freddie and I had met. And I'd always heard amazing things about you. Your record and all of that just absolutely preceded you, which is it's not common.
Thanks,
in this
man.
business.
Appreciate that.
So I ended up getting the role, and we did Freddie for a season. And
Are you not going to tell the story of the test and how it was like the most amazing test ever because the crowd was awful? That was
no, crowds are always awful.
Tell
No.
the story.
What's
No,
the
go ahead.
story?
No,
I
Freddie,
wanna
tell the
know.
story.
We had a joke, and forgive me, I don't remember what the joke was, but Brian did it better than anyone. And the first joke, we tested, I don't know how many dudes, but whatever it was. We practiced with him first and then went into the room where all the executives are. And this was a cold room.
It was a theater. It was the theater in ABC. So it's literally theater seats and a stage in the front and people just sitting with clipboards.
It's the worst.
Just watching.
and uninterested. And everybody wanted to have their fingerprint on it, but nobody had anything good to say.
Right.
It was so weird. We had already tried casting other roles and they were horrible to everyone we brought in. And sure as shit, they were awful to Brian too. And the first joke goes, and I thought it was perfect, and it's just crickets, just nothing. And I'm pissed. My back's to the audience, and I'm just livid. And Brian just goes, "Fuck fuck it in front of everybody, and then just did the rest of the scene. And for that moment, I was like, I don't care. Like, I'll fight. And I'm saying he's gonna. I was so sick of it. And when he left, I was like, by the way, that's who's getting the role.
Yeah.
And they were just like, well, we have to. I was like, you talk all you want. I was like, bring in anybody.
Yeah.
But I'm the one that has final say on this, and that's the guy that's getting the role. I was like, you guys didn't. And I would get mad at him. I was like, you guys don't give these actors anything, and they'd sit there like, well, you have to earn it. I'm like, you don't go to the comedy club to not laugh. Like, you guys are it's supposed to be an environment that's conducive to success.
Totally.
You guys are making it horrible. I'm like, I feel like I don't deserve the job, like, when I'm coming in here and working with these actors. So it was an awful, yet the greatest audition ever. Because he literally basically gave a middle finger to everybody and still got the job. Like, that's how
don't
good
remember
he was.
that at all.
No,
So
it was
you
great.
said
It was great.
"fuck it"
To
out
Freddie.
loud.
Loud,
No.
but audible to me.
Yeah.
To
But
you.
I'm sure Helford heard it.
And lip readers, yeah. Was Rasmussen there? I'm sure he was.
I don't remember, but the whole gang was probably there. Yeah.
So we ended up we did a season of the show. It was live audience, which I had done before when I was young, like before 90210. But when 90210 ended, every time, because pilot season was just kind of what you did. You remember, like, it was, as a working actor, it was like, okay, you'd guest on as many things as you could, and then you'd go and do a pilot, and then you'd guest on more stuff. And I ended up, I think during my career, I did like 17 or so. And in comedy, when 90210 was done, my manager would always give me feedback when I'd go in the room. And the feedback was always like, was he sick? Does he not like the script? Like, he just didn't seem interested in
For comedies?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were so funny,
He didn't
man.
seem
That's
interested in being here. And I started thinking, like, God, like, am I not funny? Like, do I not know what I'm doing? Or, like, I don't understand this. And Freddie and Bruce completely changed that for me, because they were so supportive of, like, whatever like comedy ideas I had or things that I did on stage.
Yeah, you had a lot of free reign. People respected your instincts.
I had a
on
lot
that.
of free reign, and it was an absolute turning point for me
that's
in my
great to
career,
hear,
because it
man.
was a big one of, like, doing something and going, okay, I need to trust my instincts in things. And, you know, what people are saying, and that's not like, I need to keep doing what I'm doing because the audience is responding so well to it. You're responding so well to it. Bruce was. And so I've never had a chance to give you
that's
thank you
amazing,
for that,
man.
but that was massive for me, because coming off of 90210, I had so many just insecurities and things. And then to get back in the room, and it's like, oh my God, nobody wants to hire me now. And, you know, everybody is like, oh, we know what he does, and he did that, you know, for 10 years. And it's like, I've been fucking acting since I was 9. What are you talking about? Like, I didn't start on this. It's not like this is the only thing you've ever seen.
Right.
But that was, I came off of that show, and it was like, I had such a confidence of, like, oh, okay, I should just keep doing this the way I'm doing it and continue to grow with what I trust in myself. And you were a massive, I would say, like a good 97%.
Oh, that warms my heart, man. That's good advice for any artist out there, is trust your instincts and trust yourself. And Shakespeare said, know thyself. You know, 50 Cent had a cooler way of saying it.
Of course he did.
Music.
Yeah.
But, you know, you have to kind of know who you are and believe in who you are, and this business can make you not believe sometimes.
It's true.
I've seen that happen to a million actors at a million different levels in this business. So I think everybody's susceptible to it at one point in time. I'm sure I have been too. You know what I mean?
How old were you when you started?
18. I didn't move back to LA until I was 18 years old.
Did you always act?
No. When I was a kid, my mom was like, absolutely not. That's just not going to be your life. That was my dad's life, and it didn't end well. And so she didn't want me to have anything to do with it. And it wasn't until we were kind of in financial dire straits that I had to make a choice. And the fastest way to make a living was to go and try and chase this and make this happen. And it happened really quick. And I kind of got rocket shipped to where I ended up. But it was like,
What was the
maybe a
first
year and
big
a half.
job for you?
It's this little independent movie called The House of Yes with Parker Posey.
Oh yeah, I
Tori
remember
was
that.
in that.
Yeah, and
That's
that's where I
right.
was like, I was working with Parker, and she was just on this level that I was like, I can't do that. And so it was inspirational but intimidating at the same time. And I didn't love acting because of what the business had done to my dad, and she was the first person that I ever saw love it. And I was just like, yo, how does she have this much passion? And it took me probably 20 years to figure out why she cared so much. But I finally did. And I got it. And then I fell in love with the business. But it was a long affair of just liking the business and not having the same passion that she had and always wondering why. And then one day it just clicked. You do the right role, and all of a sudden you go, now I know how to be vulnerable. Now I know how to be funny. Now I know how to, do the action movie. Whatever actor's going through, but it took a role to kind of bring it out of me. And maybe it did with her too. I'm not sure. Maybe she was just born to love it. But she was the one who inspired me to stay at it.
What was that role for you? Your aha role?
I did this character. I don't remember any of the names of the characters that I played. I don't know why. And I don't read title pages either, so I don't know the names of the friggin' movies. But it was just recently I did this little independent film. And
The one that I told you that I
Yeah.
saw. Okay.
And every choice that he made was like such an awful choice for my personal morality. Like I disagreed with every single move the guy made and was like, man, this guy's like, excuse my language, but he's such a wuss, you know?
Yeah.
That's not bad language. I can say wuss.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh,
You can
God,
curse here, by the way.
I was just like, he's so soft and there's just nothing attractive about him. And something about me was like, that's why you should do this. And I listened to that voice for probably the first time in my whole life and was like, okay, we got $2 million in 2 weeks. See what we can do. And it was a first-time director who I loved working with. And all my, not all of them, but a few of my friends came and helped out. And Monica Potter came and played my wife, and Kevin Pollak came, and his character basically just talked shit to me the whole time. So it was an easy sell. It would have been like selling you the friggin' role. But yeah, it just ended up being such a special experience and got me excited to go back to work. And then my friend is the one that's directing the new I Know What You Did. And so it was just good timing that she was like, hey, would you wanna come back? And I said, no. And she said, well, let me tell you the idea. And I really liked the idea. I thought it was cool and unique and different. And horror, I think we were saying this before the show starts, evolves so much more quickly. It's why it's my favorite type of movie.
Yeah.
Because every 10 years you can see something that just doesn't relate to the next generation at all, but it can still have moments of greatness attached to it. So, and it always happens around like the second year of, like in the 70s, like those 70s style horror, like Giallo, like the Italian horror films, went all the way into like, 82. So that there's 2 years of like cringiness in horror. And then all of a sudden somebody comes around like Wes Craven and does Nightmare on Elm Street. And then those get lame and nobody likes those anymore and horror dies and everything's the same. And then Scream comes out and everyone goes, oh, wow. And then Saw comes out and everyone goes, oh, wow. And it turns the previous generation's horror movies into like comedies almost, right? Because people are like, that's not scary anymore.
Totally.
I saw Carrie Elwes chew his arm off.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it ruins for me. So F James Wan, but I love James Wan
Yeah.
at the same time. So that's it.
That's so funny
Yeah,
to think
that's really
about
cool.
because, like, when I don't think it was Noah, I think it was Journey, maybe our youngest wanted to watch like Friday the 13th or something, and I was like,
Obsessed with them.
I was like, absolutely, go ahead. Like, it's because
My
I
little
knew
man's watched tons of horror.
It
Yeah.
looked so ridiculous to see any of the effects and the things that they did. I was like, this
Right.
compared to like Stranger Things, which he's watching now. It's like Friday the 13th is a joke, you know.
But
It's,
there's parts of Friday the 13th though that I still love and think look beautiful on camera. The
For
practical
sure.
effects,
Yeah.
So it does become comical,
Yeah.
right? But I think there's still room to admire what they were able to accomplish.
The
and-
ambition.
and how many people they were able to genuinely scare.
there was a
and
show
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
was it Netflix, that the making of thing, and it was like showing these different films and like the obstacles they faced as they were making them. And Friday the 13th was one of them, and it was really cool.
What
'cause
was the obstacle?
It budget and
The
time, and, right?
Oh,
it was
the
literally
lake.
it was
With no
literally
money.
everything, locations, like it just. Like everything that could go wrong went wrong with that,
Same
and it
with
was just an
Jaws.
uphill battle.
Jaws was the
Yeah,
same thing.
which
yeah.
is, and I love, that's one of my all-time favorite
great.
movies.
One of the greatest horror movies ever made.
I love that film.
Yeah,
Because
everything.
the shark is barely in it. And the fact that they kept it alive throughout, they figured out these really cool.
They had to because
can
it
get-
broke.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't
The song
working. Yeah.
I heard that the yellow barrels, like they
Nothing
weren't
worked.
even in the script.
Nothing worked.
The
They had to
yellow
just-
barrels,
they had to
the
ad-lib.
shark never worked. So they were like, we have to have a sense of that the shark is
Yeah.
chasing the boat and whatever, moving around. So they created the yellow barrel.
And now
thing.
everyone
ended up
copies
better.
that format.
Yeah.
And they have a budget, and they
Right.
have, well, so do Jaws, but they have, they're doing that on purpose now, and which is great. You
Right.
hide the bad guy. Every once in a while, someone will have the guts to show you the ghost in the first act, which is brave, and it's taking a swing. But I'm old school, so I'm always like, well,
Right.
now what am I supposed to be
Right.
scared? Let my
Right.
imagination do some
Right.
of the work. But to each their own. Every artist has their own vision. I just don't connect to it when they expose
At
it.
the same time, though, because there's a fine line. Like Signs waited till the very end
Yeah.
to show the alien and then it was like a letdown. I was like, it was way scarier when in my own mind I was creating what I was going to see compared to actually
Sure, it's
seeing
like
it.
reading a book and letting your brain kind of tell you what the characters look like.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
love
The
that.
lost art these days.
Horror is a really fun genre. You do a podcast.
I do a podcast
horror,
about
right?
horror movies. Yeah,
That's
that's
so
all we talk
amazing.
about is every horror movie ever made.
What's it called?
It's called That Was Pretty Scary.
Okay.
We're almost at 1 million downloads already. People
That's amazing.
People
That's
really like horror movies.
unbelievable.
I
Well, it's
guess.
a massive community.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they've been
it
like,
is.
and they're so loyal. It's crazy.
Are you doing
man.
like the horror conventions and everything?
No, I haven't.
Like-
I haven't done any. We do the show, and it's it's reached a lot of people that like horror. We're on a horror network, so people
Yeah.
kind of naturally
Yeah.
flock to it. Me
The
and
audience
my
is
buddy
there.
John Lee Brody, and he's James Wan's protege. So we've kind of approached the movies from different angles. Him as a director and me as an actor, and
Yeah.
and kind of trying to say like just how hard it is to pretend that somebody's trying to kill you, basically.
Right.
Right.
But yeah, we talk about B movies, we talk about A+ movies, and everything in between, man.
That's
But
so
it's all horror.
badass.
It's all horror. Yeah.
I love that. And then the other one, so you have two podcasts.
I know, dude.
And they could not be more different. The other
the
one is
wrest-
about wrestling.
Yeah.
Wrestling.
Yes.
Yeah,
wrestling.
professional
So
wrestling,
Freddie
yeah.
used to write for wrestling.
Yeah, I would write, produce, and direct segments
Yeah.
when I
Like
first,
WWF
Yeah.
type of
That's
stuff.
where I worked.
Yeah.
How did you get into that?
Dude, that's so,
So
cool.
I
Yeah.
had retired
How
from the
did you
business.
get into that?
Well,
Please.
I retired from the business, and I was at an event, and this lady came up to me, and she said, you should. We started talking wrestling, and she was like, "Wow, you have a lot of good ideas for wrestling. You should talk to Stephanie McMahon." And that was Vince's daughter. And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I was retired. I was living in New York at the time. They were in Connecticut, so I took the train up and met with Stephanie, and we kind of had a similar conversation. And she goes, "Oh, you should talk to my dad, Vince." And I was like, "Yeah,
I'll talk to your
freaking
dad."
Talk to Vince McMahon. Like that's funny." And so I go into his office, and we start having the conversation, and they offer me a job in the room to be a producer and a writer and a director for their segments, and like a coach to these wrestlers for acting and stuff.
Yeah.
And I took the job in the room, and I grew up without a father, so my one kryptonite is when an old guy calls me son. Because we could really use you here, son. And I was like, wow, they could really use me. And so I said yes, and I got on the train and was going home. And before I got on the train, I called Sarah. I said, yeah, I just took a job with WWE. And she goes, "You're a fucking professional wrestler?" She was so pissed. It's like, no, I'm going to be doing XYZ. And she was like, "Oh my God,
And then
thank
you
God."
did that for how many years?
I did it for about a year the first time, and the schedule was crazy because I traveled with them to every single city.
Oh, wow.
I didn't miss a date. And then we had
So
a baby.
you were like off camera watching everything that was going on.
Yeah,
making
trying
sure
to help
that the
these guys
story
act
was-
and trying to
Yeah.
help these girls act because
And
not
this
all
was
of them are
pre-babies?
actors. This is what?
Yes,
Pre-babies?
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
we had our first baby, and I had to leave just to be a good dad.
Yeah.
And then I saw them come to Los Angeles for an event they call SummerSlam, which is like a pay-per-view event. And I went early to see some of my friends that I had made the first time, and Vince was there, and the same damn speech he got me with the first time, he got me again, and was like, "Well, we could really use you back here, son." And I was like, "Nah, man, the
Son of a
schedule's
bitch.
crazy." And he's like, "Well, you could just do the pay-per-views, and you could just acting coach. You don't have to do all the writing of the show, because that's what burns you out, because you would write these shows, and they wouldn't even get read till the day of the show, and then he'd be like, 'I hate this, rewrite it.' And you're just like, yo."
Yeah.
okay, we're going to give a live show 7 minutes to prep. Okay, talent's going to love that.
Yeah.
And it was just this sink or swim FU mentality that I couldn't get down with. And so I started sneaking all my talent, their stuff weeks in advance.
Oh, smart.
And just really fighting for the monologues that I wrote. They call them promos to promote whatever match you're going to have, but we call them monologues. And I just wrote all the shit that people would tell me I couldn't say in movies. Like when I would pitch a line, and they'd be like, no, he shouldn't say that. He should be nice and sweet. And I'm like,
You'd be like, cool.
and so all that shit was stored in my brain. And I was like, I guess it's for professional wrestlers and not me. And I did really well when I was there. And the guy that I was writing for became the world champ. And against the wishes of many people in the company, but they ended up being right. He was not the most responsible champion ever.
Got it.
But I still got him over, as they say in that business. No, I helped get him over. There were multiple people involved in helping him get to the level he got. But it was a ton of fun, and I'm still friends with a bunch of them today, and I'm trying to get my own wrestling promotion going where I'll be the boss and I don't have to do anybody else's stuff. So I'll know in January.
We were talking about something, and I don't want to speak out loud about it just in case you.
You guys are gonna wrestle?
You have. Well, it was sort of like it was you.
What, the promotion?
No, you were. It was like a thumb wrestling league.
Oh, the arm wrestling.
Arm
thing.
wrestling.
Oh, that was just a show that didn't go.
That would be genius.
It was a
so
superhero arm. It was a superhero arm wrestling league where
It was
everybody
called
had
Shawl.
powers.
Yeah, the
Shawl.
superhero arm wrestling league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was gonna have like actual belts made because he knew everybody
we
obviously
had
from
costumes
wrestling.
and everything, and then Netflix deaded it at the last minute. They got super pissed at the director.
Dude, so
who will
we
remain
got to push
nameless.
that again.
And I had already written 5 of the first 8, and it was going to be an 8-episode season.
Maybe
man.
I think you
you're
should
on
push
to
that
the
again.
thumb
That's
wrestling.
fun.
Maybe there's
maybe it
that's
should have been thumb
Maybe,
wrestling.
like,
We wouldn't have gotten
that was
shit
the
canned.
misstep.
It's like
Listen,
the
tragic.
some of the
Everybody
stuff
arm
that's on
wrestles.
Yeah,
Some
thumb
of the stuff
wrestling.
that's on Netflix, there's a pocket for everything. So
have
I'm
you
sure
seen-
thumb wrestling would last.
Have you seen the whole genre now of the horse riding where they have the stick?
The
Yes.
hobby horse.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the silliest shit
That's
I've ever
wild.
seen. in my
So I
life.
thought it was a joke at first when I was seeing
It-
like
it
on
is.
Instagram,
It's
but it
just not.
became something real.
Yeah.
It became something
Like there's an
real.
actual there's like
don't-
a league and teams and like you can
Yeah.
win. It looks ridiculous.
Until
People
there's an
actually
injury
People
wait,
running
report,
with like
I'm
you know
not
a horse
interested.
broom and like jumping.
Yeah,
They
once-
jump things? Like
Oh,
do
oh,
equestrian
they
They
stuff?
do a
hop.
full equestrian.
They
thing.
hop
Yeah.
and they pretend they're on a horse, and if you watch it for 5 seconds, you've seen enough.
Yeah.
Right.
It is
This
what,
is a
it's
real
exactly
thing.
what
This is
you
a real
think it
thing.
is. It's exactly as
This is
ridiculous as you
ridiculous.
think it is.
It's a
100%.
real thing.
Yeah.
Wait, so
Everything your brain's telling you right now.
What I'm saying.
Trust it.
is-
Trust. Right. Yeah. It's not leading you astray.
Yeah, you're
That's-
fine missing it for the rest of your life. You never have to see it once because
Yeah.
you already know what it is.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
so
Still
Cut to
morbidly
she's
curious.
fucking in deep.
She becomes professional.
This is
2
it.
hours
Starts
later.
owning the competition.
Next time you come to the team, yeah,
She becomes
come to
the
house,
John
she has a
McEnroe
team,
of
like
hobby
she's
horse.
got,
She
she's
starts
she's
cutting out the
custom
rest.
making, like you know, hobby horses.
I'm braiding its
yeah.
mane. Yeah.
It's like, Brian, will you just brush my hair?
Yeah, she's like hand stitching costumes, and you know, oh my girl
Gotta be-
Sarah's really gonna do something
You
this
gotta
year.
be
I can
committed.
feel it.
You got to be committed.
Go ahead.
So, Freddie, you said something a little bit ago that you retired. I remember hearing a little bit about this. Why did you make the decision to retire?
And how long ago
Because I
did
don't
you
hear
retire?
a lot of actors or
Well, I
actresses
didn't announce
say,
it, so it wasn't like something that was ever in the trades. I just didn't feel like I fit into where the direction the business was going. And if I didn't fit in, then I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't be able to love it. I wouldn't enjoy it. And so I took a step back and just said, is this something that I can continue to do? And I looked at myself honestly, and it was no. I just wasn't at a point in my life. I didn't understand the social media stuff at all. And the corporate buyouts were very, very confusing because the types of scripts they started buying were very, very different. And I see like all these people like criticizing the movies of today, but none of them have the courage or the education to criticize the studio. It's the studio's fault. It's not the writer. I promise every writer in the world has an original script that's not an intellectual property. They just can't sell them.
Yeah.
And when you get bought out by a corporation and you're an artistic entity, you are now, even though you're given a ton more money to make way more art, you are now beholden to that company's philosophies. And you can't make movies that exist outside that philosophy, that stock trader embraced philosophy. And that doesn't mesh with art at all. It's the opposite. I get that it's called show business, and I know which word's bigger, but it can't just be business.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's the way the Japanese treated actual like paintings in the 90s, and they were trading them like stocks.
Yeah.
And it kind of destroyed the art world for a little while, and people were pissed. And that sort of infiltration, it's not infiltration, it's the way the business is now. And there are ways to make it work, but there's so much on the corporate end that's changed what it's been, and I didn't feel I could exist in it until lately, once I had some more friends and
At what
allies
point
in the
was
business. Oh, man.
Because it seemed like it wasn't too far after we did the show that you sort of...
Just a year maybe after, probably. Yeah, just a year. I didn't like the politics of the way our show went down. All the stuff that I fought against were the reasons we ended up getting canceled. And I was just like, well, yeah.
Right.
You kept trying to make us woke in a time when it wasn't like time to do that. Like,
So Freddie was a writer on the show.
we had to basically
he-
remind the audience in every scene that we're Latino, we're Latino. It's just like, just let them be Spanish. They're Puerto Rican. Who
Yeah.
cares? Like,
Right.
if you look at ratings, like, what was it? The Big Bang Theory, that's the highest rated show watched ever by Latinos. There's not a Mexican dude on it.
Right.
There's not a Puerto Rican on it. No, they just want to be entertained like anybody else, man. And those are real numbers. That's not just an actor from the 90s telling you guys something on a podcast. Like, that's actual Nielsen information.
Yeah.
So we fought a lot, and we lost the fight a lot, and then we got canceled, I guess, for losing the fight that we were trying to fight. So it was just a weird scenario, and I didn't feel like I fit in. I felt like I was just like an orangutan in a world of humans. You know what I mean? Like, they all evolved, and I didn't. I guess a more complimentary way would be like Captain America in the Man Without a Country. Like, what do you do when the war's over and you're not needed anymore? And that's kind of how I felt.
Yeah.
And so it took a while. It took, over a decade for me to kind of see how the business was going and find a way to appreciate where the business was going. And then eventually I took a job with what all the studios thought was the enemy, was Netflix, because I wanted to see what it was like to do a Netflix movie. So I did that. Had an okay experience. They wouldn't spend any money to send an executive out, the one who was like passionate about our project, because it was COVID and because they didn't want to spend the money. But so we were getting notes from afar, which was weird.
Yeah.
But it still worked, and we ended up making a good movie. So I didn't hate the business, and I was like, all right, I can exist in this world. And then I made that little independent movie that I told you about, which is back to my roots, right? Because that's what I love doing. I love being the problem solver on those kind of situations and knowing my shit and making sure that I know everybody else's shit as well. So when we get on set and everything goes wrong, I'm just like, dude, let's roll the camera. I know my shit. We're going to get through this friggin' scene, and we're going to do it. Don't worry. And I love that in independent filmmaking, and I got to do that, which was good. And now I'm going to go back to the studio system with I Know What You Did and have a great time doing that. I've found a way to exist in both worlds. As long as I can get a little taste of what I need, then I can do everything else.
I get that.
That's
When we were doing Sarah Connor Chronicles, Lena Headey was on the show.
Yeah, for sure. She's
And
great.
she went on to she came from 300 and then she went on to do Game of Thrones, and she's done all these big things. And I remember that was a like an internal struggle for her, was us making a series for network television. She was constantly saying to me, she was like, it's just like, I don't feel like an artist when I'm doing this. And my argument with her was like, listen, buy your house with this, pay all your stuff, and then go be an artist during the 8 months that we have off between seasons, And
a lot of people do that, and they find peace.
that's a
and they
hard
find
thing,
satisfaction.
though, for people to understand. Like,
I
you
think
can
so.
compartmentalize life a little bit. We were talking about it with...
But she wasn't a child actor like you, so
No.
she didn't have that as much experience as you
Right.
did. So yeah,
Right.
she needed that conversation.
We were talking about that though with vacations, like, that it's to realize like, oh, you can go on a vacation, you can completely step away from the life that you've been living, but then you step back into that life and you figure out like how to all make it work and stuff like that.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing.
It
with-
is. I
with
think there's
acting.
something so interesting and respectable about understanding. There's something here that doesn't feel right. I don't know if I fit in. I don't know if I like it. I'm going to step back because I know it's so easy to just push through and try and be relevant and try and fit yourself into the something that is already happening, as opposed to stepping back and saying, where do I feel comfortable? Where can I look at this to find something that I still like so it doesn't ruin it for me?
Yeah, I think trust in your instincts are good when you've been raised to have successful instincts, right? Like, not everybody gets the mother and father that raised them up to trust their instincts, so they do feel like they have to push and press. My godfather, who kind of raised me, was a hardcore martial artist back in the day, and like trained Bruce Lee when Bruce came to America. His name's Bob Wall. He was the guy in all Bruce's movies.
Yeah.
He beat up, kick him in the nuts, and he had that cool scar down his eye. It was
That
awesome.
was your...
It's my godfather.
My
He
God.
passed away last year, but he kind of raised me and was very, very disciplined. And when I started in this business, watched over me big time, because they lost my dad, right? Like, that's why he was my godfather. They were very, very close. He taught my dad how to fight. And so I didn't have a lot of doubt when it came time to walk away based on the way I was raised. But not everybody gets that. Had I not had that father figure in my life, I don't know if I would have been able to do that. Maybe I would have pressed and gone, and who cares? It's a job. Who cares? But I just didn't. I knew what was right. I knew what was going to be best for me and my family, because it's bigger than you when you have a family. And so it's a much easier choice to make.
Right. Do you still do martial arts?
I have since I was a kid. That's the only sport I know how to do. I can't hardly throw a football. Barely, I had to teach me how to play baseball for that baseball movie I did.
Oh, for the one I used to make fun of you, where
I
you
don't-
were
did
on the
you make
riding
fun of me?
mower
Yeah, the
with no
mower.
shirt.
That was sexy
Baby
time
oil
right there,
all over
baby.
his body and
that was
muscles.
sexy time.
Yeah, that was like the trailer. I remember it. Freddie Prinze Jr. and they
That's
had
right.
just on a riding mower. I was like, I used to give him
Bouncing
so
on
much
it.
shit.
Bouncing, sexy bouncing.
Dude, I forgot about that.
That's right.
That's so,
It's hard to forget it was so sexy. I'm
so
surprised.
sexy,
I'm
yeah.
surprised.
So steamy. The stuff that dreams are made of.
That's right.
What? So did you start? Were you a writer as a young kid? Like, were you always kind of like into comics and writing
I love
things?
books, and I loved writing stories for my friends.
So you knew getting into the business, then you were like, I want to be writing also.
I didn't want to
or-
just act. I thought I was better at writing than acting when I got started, and I think those have flipped. I have something I'm working on with a buddy of mine, and we were going to co-write it, and I told him we were at dinner. I was like, dude, you're so much better at this than me. Just do it, and if you
Yeah.
have questions, call me.
Yeah.
But I'd rather read what you write than what I write. So I think I'm a superior actor now, but that's only in recent in the most recent time. I think
You were a
it kinda
great writer
surpassed.
when
Thanks,
we did
man.
the show. Like,
well, you
it
were
was-
cool because we could write anything, and it was, you just had this like unique delivery that even if the joke sucked, you would sort of like, Robert Downey Jr. is also really good at this. You'd sort of swallow the joke, which is like, I hate this fucking joke, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And it's this like swallow mumble thing, and everybody would always laugh. So
We
we literally
did-
had nights where we'd be like, just give him, just
Right,
write
he'll do
words,
it.
just write words
He'll
on a
do
page,
it.
and I'll bet these fuckers laugh.
we
And
we
they
did
would.
ridiculous things. Like, remember the one episode where we were buying movie memorabilia at an auction, and so I bought one of the Three Amigos costumes, but
I vaguely remember
but
this.
it wasn't like Steve Martin's. It was Martin shorts, so it was like this
Yes,
tinier
it was
costume.
little on you, yeah.
And then I had the actual costume on at the end. They made one like that looked exactly like I
That's
We need a
so
picture
cool.
of
I
that.
wore ridiculous
Yeah, we need a
clothing
picture of
and
that.
like did ridiculous, but it was so much fun.
That was a
It
fun
was so
season,
fun,
man.
like just making him laugh. That was always like that was
Honestly, those were the only nights that were enjoyable.
to
were
me
the
that
tape
was my
nights.
job. Was like I don't like the audience working that is fun, but if I can make him laugh, then I know they're all really gonna laugh. Like that was a big.
Yeah, man.
I pressed
You
that.
made me break once, and Jenny made me break once, and you were the only two that ever got me.
Really?
That whole year, yeah. You made me break. I don't remember what it was, and Jenny said something to me in Spanish, like said I throw like a girl or something. And the way she said it, I was just like, what the fuck?
I saw so there was a little girl on our show. Her name was Chloe Suazo, and I
Yeah.
just saw her on Instagram. She's married to Adam. What is his last?
I don't know anybody, Brian, so I won't know even when you say it.
Yeah, when you say
With a kid, and I was like,
Oh, good for them.
wow, like that. But it's that thing of like, oh my God, we have grown
It's
up.
just time, though, brother. It's just time, man. Like, I have buddies who are like, oh man, your kids grow up so fast. I'm like, not really. Like it's the right amount of time. There's years that feel like they may go by quickly, but it's just because you're having fun. It's the years go by long when you're not. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's like
Yeah,
everything
that's
feels. So
true.
time is just time, and we're only here for so long, and
true.
and
Short
we don't
amount of
know how long that is. So we hope it's 80 to 100, right? Like
So
that's
Yes.
Chloe Bridges is her name now,
it was then too.
and she's married to Adam Devine.
I don't know. Oh, is he the singer?
Oh.
No,
Adam
that's
Devine.
Adam
That's Adam
Levine.
Levine.
That's yeah. I
That's
was on
Adam
the same
Devine.
page. Who's
I only
Adam
watch
Devine?
horror movies. If he's not in
Show
horror
me.
movies, I don't know who it is.
Adam Devine, the
Oh,
comedian.
Oh, is he a stand-up comic?
Have you ever heard of
Yeah.
the movie Pitch Perfect?
I've heard of it. I
Yeah.
haven't seen it.
He's in. That's all I know him from. But he's
Gotcha.
funny.
Pitch Perfect, Workaholics, the show.
I never saw
he's
one.
been.
Watched that.
So yeah, so I saw that and I was like, oh my god, little Chloe, like how is that possible?
Yeah,
'Cause she
man.
she was like 8.
12. She was 12.
12.
Yeah.
Wow. what a time
Shows
warp,
my
right?
51-year-old memory.
That's all right.
8.
It's allowed to go a little bit. You're allowed to sleep.
Freddie. So Freddie is the one that got myself and now Cassius, my oldest son, into like really hardcore into video games.
Are you
Into
still
video
into
games?
them?
No, Cash though is
Yeah.
like he's got a Steam Deck
Yeah.
and
Oh, that's
he.
the computer. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like a portable one. So now Bodie has one, Journey has one.
I
like,
don't even know
How many
what this
babies do you
is.
have?
5.
You have 5 babies? Is that why traffic was so bad?
Exactly why.
The 2-year-old makes the traffic.
So
Right,
he
it's
set up
horrible.
in our
You gotta
dressing
teach
rooms.
it.
We had TVs. We had the newest Xbox that had
It was
come
the
out.
very first one.
And
that
they were
went live,
hardwired, so we could play like Halo against each other during breaks
Yeah.
when
I
we were
remember
going.
this.
And he and his buddy Conrad, who was also a writer on
He
the
was
show,
a writer on the show.
used to just spank me in like
I was pretty good at that game. I remember
God.
we used to
Well,
play
so was
that.
Conrad. You guys would throw the sticky bombs on me, and I just
was
be
good,
running
too.
around with this bomb stuck to me, just like waiting for that to go.
We used to, where I used to live, is this 2-story house, and we would take enough Ethernet cord to stretch it from the projection screen in the living room all the way to the basement TV down there, and we would invite like however many people could come, but we would play 4-on-4 on that same sort of system link, so we didn't depend on the internet, which wasn't as good as it is now.
Yeah.
And we would have these battles, and I remember like it was all the Culkins, it was myself, and I don't remember who else, but I remember Kieran was pretty much as good as me. And he hates losing.
And he was young too. at that
young,
point.
but he was really good, and he hated losing. Like him and his brothers are so competitive with each other. Like Kieran's more talented at the video games, but Mac finds like loopholes in the game,
Right.
and he'll beat you with the same move every time.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
he'll annoy you to death.
And Kieran would just get pissed,
And
like,
it would
"Why do you
just
keep
drive
using
him
the same
crazy.
punch?"
So I would have to put them on the same team, or it would like almost come to blows. And I beat him one time with like 2 seconds to go. We were playing a version, I think it was called King of the Hill, and whoever can stay in this one circle the longest wins in like a 5-minute game. And I beat him by like 1 second, 2 seconds, something like that. And he didn't talk to me for like 3 months.
Oh my God, 3 months?
Really?
Pissed.
Jesus.
I was just like texting him, nothing. Finally got heard back. He was like, yeah, that was bullshit. I was just
Right. He still remembered all the details
I
of
was
it.
like, I'm sorry, bro. But yeah, I remember that game, man.
Oh, man,
My son
Fred-
and I do driving games now, but I'm not as good. Like
We
he
were
smokes
talking
me
about that in
already,
the
yeah.
lobby. Because they have these crazy like driving rigs now for the driving
Simulators,
games.
full
like,
simulators.
full wraparound screens,
Seats will move.
pedals. It's a
Wow.
whole
Wow.
thing.
This
And
is a-
it looks cool. And there was a part of me that was like, I need one of those. And then I was like, I don't want that in my living
Yeah,
room.
you got to have like a separate detached garage, and you put it
Yeah,
in
I
there.
don't have the space.
Does your wife play the games with you all?
No, she's not a gamer. That's not
No.
her thing. She likes books, and then some more books.
You
I'm
know,
a books
speaking
girl.
of, you are definitely
I'm a
Yeah.
books,
a books
girl.
girl.
Yeah.
I try and play games with the kids, and I just mush buttons. Like I
but
just do
that's
it for the
what kids-
company.
they're
You know
just
what I
glad
mean?
they're hanging out with you.
Yeah,
They
the
don't
kids
care.
are all
exactly.
into Halo now. Like Halo's
Oh, is
come
it
back,
back?
and it's back, and they've got a collection where it's literally like you buy the one thing, you get all of the games, and so
Yeah.
then they just play. And they have on their Steam decks, they have like a head-to-head thing on Halo. So it's a
See,
whole.
son, now the next
They
generation
love-
gets it.
they
That's
love
why video
Halo.
games are so great, man. Like, I know they separate us with the online community instead of us getting together, and I acknowledge that part's kind of bad.
Yeah.
But it's also connecting people from all over the world that would never meet anyway. So it's kind of good in that regard too. But it can isolate you, so you have to be careful with all you parents out
I
there.
should put you in touch with a buddy of mine was on
Clinton.
the show,
Oh,
Clinton
Clinton.
Sparks.
Yeah.
He has a global
Heard that
gaming league that he has now put together.
I wouldn't be any good anymore. I don't
That's
play games.
literally, but
You
that's
can also own
you can
the whole
own,
thing.
own teams. It's a whole crazy
I'm
thing.
trying to own a wrestling
So it's
federation,
a
not
full,
a
like
game
it's a
team.
full
built-
true sports like
No, I believe it.
thing,
He's
like the
pro-
NFL, like
Pro
WWE.
gaming is big,
yeah.
man. It's
He's
big.
building it modeled off like UFC and NFL, where you get to have teams and watch them battle.
But I
it
mean,
out.
That's great.
his pitch on it of like how amazing it is, and like
It's pretty
it was
compelling.
like 46% of women that are gamer. Like
Oh,
40,
yeah, dude.
It's
If I would have
Yeah.
known that if girls would have been into games as much back then as they are now, I would have been single for a minute. I would have had girlfriends like crazy,
Right.
man. 'Cause
Yeah.
when I was a kid, that's all I did.
That's
and
all you
girls were
wanted.
like, "You suck. You like
Yeah.
video
Right.
games."
Yeah.
If it was cool like it is now, man,
Yeah.
I would have. I'd have had a smooch so much sooner than I did. So much sooner.
How old were you when you had your first kiss?
Well, the first kiss doesn't count. I got super scared and I wasn't ready. I was 12.
I wasn't ready.
And I broke up with her right after she
You
smooched.
did?
It was too much pressure. It was too much pressure.
Yeah.
And I didn't smooch again until I was 14 years old. And that was with, what was her name? I don't remember her name, but it was seventh or eighth grade, however old you are at 14. I guess I was almost a freshman. So yeah, eighth grade. And I was still super nervous. I almost broke up with her that day so we wouldn't smooch because I knew the smooch was coming at the end of the
Wait,
day.
I adore you.
Because
for
one of her
this.
friends
This is
came
so
up to me and
cute.
was like, her name was Shannon. She said, Shannon's gonna smooch, not smooch. She didn't say smooch. Shannon's gonna kiss you at the end of the day. And like, I was just like
Sweating.
beet red,
Right.
like totally freaked. I was like, oh no. And at lunch, almost broke up with her because I just couldn't hack it.
That's the
And then at
cutest
the end of the
thing.
day, I was like walking to my bike, like the longest walk ever, to go home. And then I saw her right in front of my bicycle, and I was like, man, there's no escaping this. And then she put the lips on me, man, and it was a big old smackaroo, and I didn't break up with her. And
That was the beginning.
It was the beginning. That was the beginning.
That's
yeah.
very cute.
Yeah, man.
That's
My first kiss was on a movie date watching Titanic.
Was it?
Yeah. And it was
During the movie or
During
did you
the
wait till-
movie?
Oh,
Yeah, we
nice.
had a-
Ooh,
Yeah,
wow.
missing scenes. to smooch.
Titanic.
yeah.
What's an upbeat movie?
Yeah, right.
Right, totally. Right. Super sexy.
Yeah. Wait, was it Titanic? No, it
I'm assuming before the ship sank.
I feel like
That it was like
Titanic.
Wait, why am I
Leo
misremembering
if it was
that?
during the sad part.
Right.
Because then it's like
Right.
there's some richness there.
drama.
his name was Casey.
Okay.
And I remember, no, it was awful. It was like like a makeout kiss, and I was like, oh, I had to wipe it off my face at the end, and I
Well,
never
he was
wanted
just
to
a
kiss
bad
anyone.
kisser,
He was
that's
a
all.
terrible kisser.
Yeah, yeah.
And I never wanted to kiss anyone again after that for a
My
long
first,
hot
like-
Because you
minute.
figure everyone sucks at kissing.
I was like, that's
yeah.
disgusting.
My first big
Right.
makeout, like I remember I rode my bike to her house, and I remember like
Did you know you were going to make out on
no,
the way?
I didn't. But riding my bike home because I knew my parents were home. I was like, I thought I'd done something horribly wrong, and I was like,
Just
oh my
for
god, they're gonna
smooching?
smell it on me, and then like and so I was like flop sweat, like it was. I
Bro,
was
when
like
I rode
Tyson in a
home,
spelling
I
bee.
felt like I was Elliot in
Did you?
like I was riding on air
Oh,
the whole way
boy.
home. I was
No,
like, oh,
I
this
was-
was amazing.
I had the guilt of like I was a little Catholic schoolgirl. Like I
Were
was.
you raised? You're not Catholic.
No,
And
I
then
was
it
raised
all
Lutheran.
changed.
Lutheran.
Yeah.
Well, they probably have some.
They have some
I
restrictions.
don't know much about them, but they probably.
Right.
Most
so
religions use guilt as a mighty weapon.
This is true.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, we didn't get married, so it's it's
Everything's
I get
okay.
it.
You were living in sin, but that's all right, man.
Yeah. We had a child out of wedlock. My
Yeah.
goodness.
Oh, that's
We did.
lots of sin. You
Yeah.
guys
Oh,
are
yeah.
Lots
big
of
time
sin.
Oh, we're
sinners.
going down,
Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
dude. 5 kids,
5. Well, no.
and I'm not married right now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm
yeah,
done.
Yeah, you lived in too much sin.
Oh, Jesus.
Too much sin.
much
Are you
sin.
married now?
No, we're engaged.
You're
Yeah.
engaged, so still sin.
Yeah.
While we're doing the podcast,
I
you're
know.
living in
Still.
sin.
How do you feel sitting there?
Like I might catch on fire, and I'm the decent one. I would never do that. I would never live in sin. Never.
Well, whatever.
Maybe a few times.
Don't judge me.
You know,
Don't judge me.
Maybe a couple here and there.
sins.
Just a sprinkle.
No, Sarah and I think sin too. I can't remember. It was a long time ago.
So you guys have been married now for 20 years?
22 years.
22
Wow,
years. You know,
that's
something,
amazing.
That's
24.
exceptional.
something that I've admired about your relationship is you both have seemed to stay out of the public.
That's by
more.
choice, though. You can control it to a certain degree.
But how it seems like it's very hard for a lot of people. How intentional do you have to be to do that?
I don't know how deliberate they are in trying to avoid that BS. Other people, I know how easy it's been for us because I don't go anywhere. I don't.
Right.
I don't go to parties. I don't. There's no people don't see Sarah and I out and about at the popular places. We have our restaurants that we like, and they're not super trendy in places where, you know, paparazzi hang out. So we're good at avoiding it. I feel like, I'm not trying to shit on anyone, but I feel like it's not that hard to avoid if you really want to avoid it. There's times where they wait at the bottom of our street, but there's people that are way more famous than me on my street, so I'll just make sure they leave first. They'll go follow Schwarzenegger and leave me alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it isn't this like, there's no secret to it, and it wasn't like hard. We just don't like that life. You know, she grew up in New York. She experienced everything before she was 21 years old, like nightclubs and all that stuff. And I can count on one hand how many clubs I've been to in my whole life. One was with you. I don't remember what it was called.
More sin.
Oh,
I don't remember. They had live music, though. It was cool.
did they?
Yeah.
I remember I bought you a suit for your birthday.
Did
one
you?
year. Yeah.
Oh, from that suit place. I remember that
On
place.
Sunset.
Yeah.
That suit plate was like a custom
Yeah,
suit
no,
place
it was
or
like
something?
Scott and Company, I think was the name of it. And so I had gone there and got a couple suits, and so it was his birthday, and I was like, hey, come on down to the, because I thought I was awesome.
We did lots of gifts on that show.
We did.
Yeah, we did. Everybody
A lot of gifting.
was taken care of pretty well on that.
I remember
enjoyed it.
Sarah used to bring us food.
Yeah. Well, because Dave Garcia, who was in charge of catering, not that anybody would be interested in this, but he's a wonderful human being, and he was also the caterer on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to make enchiladas, which I make really good because I do a recipe from New Mexico, and I brought him in. He was like, man,
You're a chef.
no, I didn't graduate, but I'm a cook. I
You're
can
a
cook,
cook,
but
okay.
I didn't earn that title. But anyway, he was, you remember David. He was the guy that would always
for
cook
sure.
food. But anyway, I don't know how we got sidetracked on this, so I'm gonna not bother people with a catering story.
Oh, no, we're talking about the food that Sarah used to bring.
Oh, well, anyway, we bring Mexican food, and she would bring tons of stuff, and they would just whoop up like amazing meals.
That's
for us.
amazing.
So it was
I love
like
that.
when we had any sort of like break at all and could eat, that our spread was ridiculous.
It was always good. Warner Brothers
It
didn't give
was
us much money for it.
ridiculous.
So Bruce
making
and
me
myself would put money in to make
We
sure
had
they
we
That's
had a
amazing.
balcony over the top with our rooms because that's the good thing about like doing sitcom is you're literally all in one building.
Right.
doing
Well, and
it
the
all.
hours are a joke,
right?
except
oh,
on shoot night. But that's
Right.
one day a week.
right, ridiculous. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you come in at like 11 and you're done by 3. It's like I didn't do
It doesn't
this.
feel like work.
This is amazing.
And you're just playing with a scene.
You're just
the first
walking
couple
around with
days.
a
You're just-
script
You're
and-
just playing with it. There's
Yeah.
no pressure. There's no anything for the first like 3 days. But yeah, you're just pretending, and then the pressure comes the last 2 days, and that's when it's not fun until you're like.
So
in the
I ended
scenes
up
with
doing
people.
another show with Bruce. I did
you?
Anger Management, which he did for Charlie Sheen when 2.5 Men had ended.
Okay.
And I ended up doing like 40 episodes. They had a
Holy
crazy
crap, dude.
Yeah. They had a crazy deal. So the show was on FX.
Well, he would have a guarantee for X amount of episodes.
They did
'cause
it. It was
Charlie
called a
Sheen.
1090 deal. So the first 10 episodes were done. If the numbers met or exceeded a certain amount, then they were picked up for the back 9 seasons.
To get to the 100
90
number.
episodes to
Yeah.
get to 100. So everybody was curious about that show because of how 2.5 Men, imploded and everything going on with him and the Tiger's Blood stuff and everything that was going
Oh,
on.
it was around then.
So it was like pandemonium. Everybody wanted to see it. I came and did the first episode because Bruce was like, "Oh, come in! I think you'd be great as like the ex-husband." And so I did a scene in that, and then I was like, "Okay, cool, thank you." And about 4 months later, I get a call from Bruce, and he's like, "Hey, so you want to come do like 40 something more of them?" I
So
was
they
like,
got their rating and got their 90.
They got the 90.
That's crazy,
But
man.
we shot that show like it was a live audience show, but we did no audience at all, and we would do 2 episodes a week. So we did 1 episode from Monday morning to Wednesday afternoon, and then the second one. But we would go rehearse the scene. They would prep, light and set everything up, set up cameras. We'd go get ready. And then we'd come out and shoot literally all of the stuff that was in in his living room or in his office.
See,
or
I
in
don't love
his,
that style. I like the old way more, but I get that they cross schedule now, so
Yeah.
we're shooting multiple episodes.
I
at the
really
same time.
enjoyed our schedule also.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed
liked
what
it
we
one
did.
at a time.
I liked playing in front of an audience.
We
too,
almost
you
did it
know.
sequentially a lot of times too. Like we almost shot in order.
Yeah.
Most of the time we did.
Yeah.
And the live audience thing is great because they tell the truth. They tell the truth. If a joke doesn't work, you're like, okay.
She just did a play in Houston. She did a month of that, and that's the feeling of like when you're on a stage. And
Oh, I love live stage. It's my
you can
favorite.
tell
my
you're.
I did it
favorite.
once. It didn't work for me.
Yeah.
I couldn't do the same thing every day. It started to like wear on me by like month 2. I did a play in London. I don't remember what it was called, but it was with.
These are tough.
Was it with Kieran? Oh no, he was the role before me, and then I replaced Kieran when he left. And it was with Chris Klein and this girl named Heather Burns, I think was her last name. And I was very gung-ho. I took the job by accident, basically, and was just committed to it. So I said okay, and was like, I'm just going to go for it. And the first 2 weeks were cool. And then after that, I was like, I'm done.
It's the same thing.
yeah.
See, for me, it's a little
do it.
different because I'm a dancer. So
Sure.
it's the dance expression. It always feels different every single
Sure.
time. And I grew up on stage, dancing on stage with dance productions. And so this one, I also got to act with it, which was very cool. And so for me, that was also very new. And it was
Yeah.
only like a 3-week run, but I could totally see how doing the same role acting,
It's why I
was
don't.
how they
Yeah.
do this on Broadway
I
for
can't
months
stand
on
theater.
end.
I never
How do
did
you
it
keep it
again.
real
Yeah,
and
I
organic?
never did it again. I had one performance that I was proud of out of 3 months of performances. And
Oh,
it was-
really?
I'm just
Yeah.
not one. Like I'm not one to rehearse stuff to death, and like I don't.
I agree with that.
I
Yeah.
love the spontaneity of getting out and doing it the first time and having an amazing time and going, oh, you got that one right. Like let's move on. That
But
was
you
the
always
one.
came to set ready to work. You didn't come to set
I did.
unprepared. Like
I-
a lot of
I love
actors
working.
learn
I
shit in
love-
the makeup room, and you never were like that. You always knew your
No,
stuff.
I love being on set. I love acting. Like I take massive pride in what I do.
yeah.
And so when I get to work, it's like, okay, I know what to do now. It's like those certain switches come on, and you're like, okay,
Yeah,
this
but
is
still,
what,
it's a discipline. Like there's not a lot of actors like that. A lot of people I see learn it in the chair or learn it on set. And you always, I knew you were doing the work at home. Bill Nye speaks very highly of that. Like, you do the work at home. You come to set, prepared and ready to
Right.
work. And that's how I was raised and trained by my acting coach as well. And you were the only one on set, I think, you and Jenny, that knew their stuff before they got to work. Everybody
Right.
else was kind of doing their own process, which, worked for everybody, but it's just not one that I can jump on.
I just
can't.
saw Jacqueline Oberdorf
Oh, how's she doing?
at a God, where was that? It was like Baja Fresh or something. Like it was something ridiculous. like-
Sure.
or Fresh Brothers. It was something silly, but she's doing great.
Good, man.
doing really good.
Good. She was
Yeah.
nice, man. I liked everybody on
Yeah,
that cast, man.
we had
I
a really
liked
cool
everybody.
cast.
Yeah.
So, Freddie, we have to wrap up.
Okay.
What is one thing that you know now, that you experience now, that you wish you maybe knew 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or growing up?
That's easy, man. I wish I understood how to be vulnerable at a younger age. I was raised kind of old school where men are allowed the emotions of anger and lust. And that was about all you were allowed to show, or it wasn't masculine, it wasn't manly. And that just couldn't have been worse for me. So it took me a while to figure out how to be vulnerable. It improved my personal life. It improved me being a father. It improved my marriage. It improved my acting, being vulnerable and being in touch with that, not having to fake things, but tap into real stuff and feel safe while doing it. So yeah, if I could go back in time, I would definitely tell myself, my 20-something-year-old self, like, dude, go to therapy or find a fucking priest or somebody and let this shit out and be vulnerable and be comfortable with that. You don't have to be so scared of people seeing your emotions. Because I always tried to stay together. On that show, it was like I was a wreck on the inside, and I always tried to hold together. You knew that I was hurting about halfway through.
Yeah.
Because we had talked, but I was hurting bad. It was just too much pressure. And I was only 29 years old, and I was the creator, the executive producer, and the star of that show. And by episode, I said halfway, probably by episode 5, I was just like, what the I just couldn't. It was too much responsibility. And I just wanted to act and write funny jokes. and do funny stuff. And there were so many extra responsibilities dealing with the studio and our distributor and all that I just wasn't prepared for. So, and I wasn't going to be vulnerable with them. Hell no. And I still wouldn't be. But I would like to be more vulnerable with my cast.
Yeah.
Our scenes would have been even better. And I like the scenes that we did.
Yeah.
But yeah, vulnerability is, I think, the key for me. Now, advice is like peanut butter. Right, you might be allergic to what I say. Don't necessarily do it if you're listening. But if you could tease with it, and if it feels good to you, then commit a little bit more. And do everything slowly. I don't usually like giving advice, unsolicited advice, and I don't think your listeners want unsolicited advice. But there it is. Be more vulnerable.
Wait, I love the advice is like
great.
peanut butter.
Yeah,
that's
right.
like
I'm
that's
using
my
that
shit
one.
right there.
That's
That
smooth.
shit's amazing. Yeah,
Dude, I know you got to get out of here. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
No,
for
it's
coming.
my
Thanks,
pleasure.
man.
Yeah,
I know
thanks
this.
for having me.
Again, I know this isn't your thing. Like you are at home and
You didn't make me
with
talk
your
about
family.
myself the whole hour, so it wasn't as painful as I thought it would be. I just don't.
I
like
told you
talking
it'd be
about
fun.
myself. Yeah. No, it was good.
Dude, thank you. For
it was
being here. I
very
love
cool
you.
hanging with you,
Thank you,
Freddie.
Freddie.
Thank you.
Yeah, for
Thank
sure.
you, brother. And everybody, thank you for watching. Hit like and subscribe, please, if you're watching. And
Tune in
thanks
for the
again.
next one.
Yeah, right on.
Hey, if you're going through something right now, if you need additional support, then please reach out to me at randyspelling.com/help or go to my Instagram at randyspelling. Thanks.